This is Making the Case. I'm Yodit Tewolde. Jury selection began and ended today in the federal trial of the three former Minneapolis officers charged in George Floyd's killing. Jury selection moved at a lightning pace today. All 12 jurors plus 6 alternates have been seated and opening statements are set to begin on Monday. The Justice Department says the 3 officers deprived Floyd of his constitutional rights after they failed to act as Derek Chauvin kneeled on Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes. Here to weigh in on today's proceedings and what we can expect next week is attorney and immediate past president of the National Bar Association, CK Hoffler. Always great having you on, CK.
Good evening.
So it took one day to get a jury impaneled. Now, to put all of this into context, jury selection for Derek Chauvin's state trial took nearly 2 weeks, where the judge and the attorneys questioned each juror individually. The presiding judge made it clear that he wanted this thing to move fast, and he cited COVID-19. Your thoughts on how quickly they seated a jury?
Well, it was quick. It was quick. But there's a big difference in picking a jury in state court and federal court. For one, in state court, as a trial attorney, whether you're a prosecutor or a defense attorney, you are actually picking the jury. You're asking the questions. A lot of times the judge in a state court case will ask some questions as well, but as the presiding attorneys for both sides, you're actually questioning the jurors. And that's a critical important difference between picking a jury in federal court and in state court. In federal court, however, usually the judge is heavy-handed. Typically, judges pick the jury in federal court. They will get questions submitted by the lawyers. The lawyers may be able to ask a few questions, but the judge is the one who takes charge of picking the jury and moves it at lightning speed. So that's the biggest difference. In addition to that, you've got a judge who is intent on putting those jurors in the box in one day. I think just as a trial lawyer, that's never a good thing. I want to delve into their backgrounds, particularly in a case like this, where there's so many feelings. There's been a history of police brutality. Recently, cases being tried. I want to know how those jurors feel about the issues in this case, especially since we had the Derek Chauvin trial. But be it as it may, the judge picked this jury at lightning speed. Never a good thing if you're the prosecution, but both sides are, I imagine, in the same position.
Well, speaking of how high-profile Derek Chauvin's trial was and his conviction, I mean, the judge also told the jury that his murder conviction shouldn't have any influence over the federal proceedings. Now, judges and attorneys say things all the time, but of course, jurors are human. So how much of an impact will Derek Chauvin's trial have on these jurors, you think?
I think it's going to have a tremendous impact. The world, that community, saw Derek Chauvin's trial. They heard the evidence. They saw that video over and over again, the 9 minutes and 49 seconds where Derek Chauvin literally held his knee on the neck of George Floyd. And it's hard to take that vision out of your mind. And that video was really the most important point of the evidence, I believe, in Derek Chauvin's trial. Now, while the judge can tell the jurors, don't pay attention to that, this is a separate case, it's the same killing, it's the same murder. And so I think it's hard to unring that bell. But what the judge is trying to tell them is this is a whole new day, a whole new trial, new evidence is going to be laid, and don't base your verdict, if you reach a verdict, based on the evidence in a previous trial.
CK, let's talk about the makeup of this jury that has been impaneled. According to pool reporters, there are 8 men and 10 women, 1 Asian and 1 Asian woman. The rest are white. This isn't surprising since the jury pool was selected from throughout the state, so much more conservative and less diverse than Chauvin's jury that was drawn from the Minneapolis area for an evenly split of whites and non-whites. Should there be cause for concern?
I really don't think that there should be cause for concern because, after all, the police officers are pretty diverse as well. I think that the prosecution is going to have to put on a very, very strong case. We've seen throughout the country that predominantly white jurors are convicting white police officers and certainly diverse police officers for killing Black men And so I think that while I'd like to see a more diverse jury in this case, because of the fact that George Floyd was African American, I don't think that we should be terribly concerned, because this jury is a reflection of the demographics that you get when you have a federal court. Much broader, as you said, jury pool. But I think, the officers are diverse. So I'm not as concerned as I might be otherwise.
Well, CK, we know that federal prosecutions of police officers are extremely rare. The prosecution has a high legal standard to show that an officer willfully deprives someone of their constitutional rights. How hard is it going to be for the prosecution to prove that the officers didn't do something and they knew it was wrong and they still did it anyway?
I think the burden is going to be tougher, or it's going to be more difficult than in the state court case. The reason why? Derek Chauvin was the one who had his knee to the neck of George Floyd. These three officers, they aided and abetted. They sat around and watched. They did nothing to stop it. They had an affirmative duty, at least that's what the prosecution is going to say, to act and to do something which they failed to do. But they were not the primary aggressors. So the case is different. It is more difficult, but it is certainly winnable. The charges are less severe than the charges, for example, in the Derek Chauvin case. But it's a winnable case.
Now, one of the officers, Officer Lane, he wasn't charged with one of the charges that the other two are facing. So he isn't facing a second count where it's alleged that they willfully violated Floyd's right to be free from unreasonable seizure by not stopping Chauvin as he knelt on Floyd's neck. Now, Lane was the one that suggested at the time to the officers, and he asked twice whether Floyd should be rolled on his side. Do you think that that's going to be harmful? I don't know why he wasn't charged as well, but do you think that's going to be harmful for his case, and that he obviously knew that something was wrong, made a suggestion, and still did nothing about it?
I think it's going to be harmful, because he should have done more about it. They could see with their own eyes that George Floyd was dying. He was choking. And yet they sat, having an intellectual discussion with your fellow officers when someone is dying and being murdered before your very own eyes is simply not good enough. I would equate this to the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, where you had three defendants, two culpable, guilty on almost all counts. Travis guilty on all counts, the father guilty on almost all counts, and then William Rhodey, who was not found guilty on all the counts, but still held criminally liable. I think it's very similar, because all of them together had an affirmative duty to stop what was happening, and they did absolutely nothing other than have some intellectual discussions and make sure that Derek Chauvin did exactly what he did, which was to murder George Floyd. So I don't think it's going to make a big difference. The jury may cut him some slack, but I don't think it's going to make a big difference ultimately on them finding him guilty.
CK, this is just one of two trials for these three former officers, and normally the state case goes before the federal case. I mean, we saw with Derek Chauvin where he was found guilty of murder in his state case and then ended up pleading to the federal case. The three men who killed Ahmaud Arbery were found guilty of murder in their state case and now face a federal. Here we have the federal going before the state. How much of an impact, if they are found guilty in the federal trial, these three officers, what kind of an impact will that have on their state trial? And do you think they may plea if they are found guilty on the federal level?
I think they probably will take a plea if they're found guilty on the federal level for this reason. At that point, a broader jury that is ostensibly more conservative would have found them guilty. So ostensibly a more liberal jury, which is what you typically find in state court, where the lawyers are able to pick the jurors and delve into the background, probably will do nothing less. That's what conventional wisdom says. But as a trial lawyer, sometimes you just have to go for broke and go out there and fight. So I think the prosecutors will take nothing for granted in either case, because they've got to prove the case. They have the burden of proof, and it's beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's a pretty strong burden in both cases. So I think that it's going to have an impact, particularly if they're found guilty in this case. If they're not found guilty in this case, it's going to have an impact because the prosecutors in the state court case are going to fight very aggressively and use very strategic moves to ensure their guilt in the state case, particularly if they're not found guilty in the federal case.
All right, Attorney CK Hoffler, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your insight tonight.